Hello and welcome to The Modern Consultant. I'm your host, Mark Aarons, and on today's episode, I have the pleasure of hosting Gamal Codner. Gamal is a serial entrepreneur who, among many other endeavors, has grown an e-commerce brand to 7 figures, then sold it, and now shows other entrepreneurs how to turn their lifestyle businesses into desirable businesses that people want to buy. He has personally raised over $10 million in revenue and has also had 9 successful business transactions totaling over $50 million. He's also an official Shopify and Amazon verified coach, and his consulting practice has helped over 20,000 founders generate over $96 million in annual trackable revenue. And full disclosure, he's one of my past clients, and I had the pleasure of being able to help him develop the curriculum which then powered his program, his mastermind, and a number of other offers. And in today's episode, we catch up and find out what's happened since we've worked together and how things are going and where he's taking things next. There's so much for us to talk about here, business models, and lots to learn, especially for consultants who are interested in other business models as well, and thinking about how they can implement what's working in other industries in their own. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Gamal, I just want to welcome you back because it's been a little while since we've got to do one of these. It's always fun. And what is going to make today's episode special is very often people, when they're in this world, they don't often do check-ins, to see how things have progressed with whoever they worked with, a long time ago or so. To just see where they are now, and very often some people let go of business and all that sort of stuff. And so I think it's going to be a really cool update on everything that has happened since some people will have already heard about you and some people listening to this will also maybe know you through Danielle, who we have another podcast episode coming out with as well. But for those who don't know who you are, if you had to briefly describe who it is you are and what you do, what would you tell them?
Guys, living under a rock, how could you not know of me, right?
I agree.
Come on, guys. No, but you may not know me for very good reasons. I like living offline as much as possible. But I'm just a regular kid from Jamaica whose parents came over here. And at an early age, kind of shaped me to be an entrepreneur. And I've been an entrepreneur now for over a decade, supporting e-commerce founders in their journey to build brands that they could eventually sell to build generational wealth. Because that is the thing that we did. We built our brand up and sold it. Because of their growth, we've gotten there. Been one of 90 official partners of Shopify, who has been they stamped us to be able to coach founders worldwide. And recently gave the keynote to Amazon's e-commerce accelerator, all about the things that we've learned in our business. And so I am here today to spread the word about the benefits of building wealth in a fun way through this kind of new era e-commerce model that we've stumbled upon. My wife and I and my brother and I stumbled upon while we're building our brand.
And that is excellent. And I remember when you did the keynote, I saw the videos and stuff, and I think it was 4,000 people or so in an audience. It's much respect on reaching and helping more people to do more of what it is that you've done, and something that people might not know is that I believe 6 times over serial entrepreneur, is that right?
Yeah. And that sounds like a bragging statement, but many of those didn't work out too well, but it allowed me to start from experience the next time. And so 4 of them were positive cash flow businesses. 2 of them gone on to do 7 figures. The other 2 are just 6. But yeah, some great experiences building multiple brands, having multiple perspectives about business, and really just figuring out what the fundamentals are across, tech startup, raise money on Silicon Valley, business services, raised over about $15 million. E-commerce brand, grew that to 7 figures, and now coaching and consulting, and prior also marketing agency. That was a positive cash flow business too. So all these experiences are just really serving me well in my own business and also as a coach because I have a perspective from a lot of different ways.
I really like that because I am a fan of learning from business models that are not my own. And the fact that you have been able to see this many different models, e-commerce, service, and just so many. I think it just allows you to, again, advise people that much better. And it's also a testimony to the quality of the material that you and I had originally put together for Exit Blueprint. And I remember one of your testimonials where folks were telling you that your stuff was better than Fortune 500 trainings, and then I remember a more recent testimonial as well where I think you had CPAs saying that they were learning stuff that they didn't learn in business school. What has been most surprising for you in getting your expertise out there to the world and getting the reception that you have from everyone?
Yeah, I think that has been the biggest aha moment. Hearing people who I thought should have had it figured out, and not in a judgmental way, like looking down on them, but I just kind of assumed, oh, you go to business school, you're a CPA, you know this, or you're working for Fortune 500 billion-dollar company, you know this. But that's not true. And so I thought, well, a lot of the work that we did together, now that I'm recognizing, is that when I see things are like going from point A to point B, there are all these other random experiences I learned from raising private equity, building a tech startup, that my brain is just calculating real quickly to go into the decision, but it's really probably A to M or A to Z for a lot of other folks based on, our different perspective and our business experiences. And so for me, there's a book, Think Fast and Slow. I've been having to slow down my brain and to say, this isn't really step A to B. This is really all these other steps. And I can no longer make an assumption that other people with similar experiences know this too. And so in slowing down my work and my thoughts, that's how I've been able to get the depth and some of the feedback I've been getting from people who are joining Amazon's program and joining my program because they're getting more value, or the people who've went to business school, or so on and so forth. And it's because I think a lot of people are just skipping over the why these decisions make sense and the thought process behind it with the various perspectives. And so that's what I've been so surprised at, 8 and 9-figure brands. I'm helping them with some stuff, and I've never built a 9-figure brand yet, but I'm helping them with stuff that I've figured out along my journey. And it's because of those great experiences that I've had. So I'm now leaning into that more.
Have you heard of the 4 stages of competence?
I feel like I have.
So
what? Bring me up to date with it. Give me the refresher.
Yeah. So it's, when it comes to learning anything, they say there's these 4 stages of competence. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know.
What you don't know.
And it's just ignorance, basically, and then, step 2 is conscious incompetence. You now know that you don't know. And then from there, learning can really begin, because you're not in denial or ignorance. And then step 3 is conscious competence. It's oh, you can do the thing, but you have to think about it for it to be good. You got to put in a lot of effort and and then the 4th step is unconscious competence.
That's where I am with a lot of this stuff.
And a lot of the experts that I work with, regardless of fields, whether they have just 10, 20 years of in the field, experience, or a PhD, or a mixture of both, or whatever the case may be, usually get to that stage of unconscious competence. And then it's but the people that want to learn from you aren't there. And you then have to make the unconscious conscious again for them to even be able to interact with it, because they might be either at the conscious incompetence stage 2, or stage 3, conscious, and it's like for them to get to the next level, you now need to go back into your own mind to be able to uncover those pieces, and so like what you said just like before this, like it captured it perfectly. Yeah.
I thought about that. I learned about that while at the tech startup. That same book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He won a Nobel Prize just on cognitive biases and just understanding how the brain works. And I learned like your brain is optimized to not have to think, right? It's trying to optimize. It's trying to operate at that fourth level at all times. But then a lot of learning gets overlooked because you don't even really know how you're coming to these conclusions. And the other thing, which is really cool, which I loved about you when we work together, is you have actual in the field experience. And so when I was trying to raise money to buy businesses, I didn't understand how some of these decisions were perceived from the operator perspective. And then when I was raising money for my tech startup to help businesses get access to capital, it was so obvious to us, but in the hands of the operator, what we were saying made no sense. And so now as I operated my business, some of the things that didn't make sense to me made sense from this perspective. So now I think as a coach and consultant, I'm working with the people who were where I was a few years ago, and I understand why they don't get it yet. And so having that perspective, and now that I'm forcing myself to think slow, it's been really helpful to the people and the clients we support.
That's awesome. I love it. And I also am curious to hear, like, what were some of the key learnings that you had after launching Exit Blueprint? Because I know there's also been some evolutions of the model based on feedback, from everyone that has gone through the program as well.
Yes. And so the real big thing is understanding that we saw our business pass revenue, and a lot of other founders could not see it there yet. And so that's one. And the other thing is that we had evolved kind of the same way. We've evolved through thinking and reached this point, and we were selling this final destination of exit your business, right? Let us prepare your business to increase in value and to be attractive to an investor or buyer. But people couldn't even get past the day-to-day to think that far. And so we ended up creating, remixing our program and adding, based on like the first dozen people we supported, and just creating what we call it Scale and Blueprint, just like the process of actually enjoying the business you have now, not thinking about what you're going to do 2 to 3 years from now. Also, we still do support founders who are interested in selling, but the big bulk of where we've been finding a lot of our support with is just helping e-commerce founders fix cash flow. They don't even know what that is, but they have symptoms of it. They don't have money to pay their bills. They're growing, but it doesn't feel like it. All these things are symptoms of a fundamental problem that we kind of uncovered and fixed ourselves, which is our new era way of thinking. And so we're showing them how to do that. They're finally starting, because of the stress that is removing from them there. The best compliment we've gotten is, man, you really saved our marriage.
Wow.
We had so much tension around money and around why I'm always not present, and our kids drawing our family picture and mommy's on the computer and everyone. So family members asking why I'm never around for these things, and like all the tension that comes with the sacrifices of being a business owner. So I think the biggest aha is we are now supporting people to see a world where revenue and growth is not the end goal, but it's having a business that supports an enjoyable life, which obviously is very lucrative, very profitable. And now with this new way of thinking about running a business is also very lean and less time consuming. So you can actually use your business to serve you in a life you want versus your business kind of being the lead in how you run your life and your happiness and your availability and your time and all that stuff. So it's been pretty cool.
I really love that, because a lot of the people who are listening to this, if they're not going to go down the productizing their expertise in the form of a higher ticket online course, mastermind, workshop, program, or whatever scalable one-to-many model, even if they decide to keep the model as like one-to-one delivery, ultimately that outcome you just described is what a lot of people want. It's freedom and flexibility, and to have more impactful life, a higher quality of life, usually with the people that they care about, And so I love hearing that impact story, because I know we're both very impact driven. And then the money becomes a measure of how much good you're actually doing in the world. That's...
Don't get me wrong. Still be filthy freaking rich. do it in a way where it doesn't suck along the way, right? Like,
yeah.
We have sacrificed too much to also sacrifice how much we enjoy each day, right? We have more than that. And so, like, for us, selling our business got us to that goal. But the reality is we developed that business lifestyle in preparing our business for sale. So even if you don't want to sell that, even if you don't want to sell your asset, or you still want to be one-on-one, you can still have that balance of making more money than you need to support your needs and to do anything you want, but still loving the business that you're building and not being a prisoner to this thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What has been the most surprising thing for you? Because I have some visibility into your programs and courses and everything. You used to have a more entry level course/program. Are you still offering that? No longer offering it? And why?
Good question. So I'll say the kind of business reason and also my internal reason. So business reason, just looking at market opportunity, there's a ton of decent and even good resources that are going after people who are getting started, like the biz op market. So there's just a lot. So that just seemed more of like a red ocean to me. And then a big part of that was really mindset work, like believing in themselves. And it was a lot of mindset, less tactics. I felt that as I was building my business past 6 into 7, there were less resources for people who understood the struggles that I went through at that level. Like the $100,000 Amex charges, right? The 6-figure purchase orders, and then these decisions of like any amount of time you have $200,000-$300,000 in debt just to like manage the business. How do you sleep at night? Like, I didn't have a lot of people in a space to really share that with in my industry. So when I had an opportunity, we sold our business. When I had an opportunity to like sit back and like not just be in hustle mode and like really be intentional about what we wanted to do next and who we wanted to be meaningful to, or like, I wanted to serve that version of us, because that was the most stressful actually. Getting started was easier than maintaining. Or once you got some traction, actually like the tangible things in your business you needed to fix to avoid bankruptcy, right? I felt like we're almost on a near-death decision every other month. And so I thought that was more underserved. That's the business decision. The internal decision is what I just said. Like, I enjoy talking about this more than getting started. I enjoy solving real problems, right? Like we've been able, the people, especially in our one-on-one, we've been able to literally like save people's businesses. Like, yo, this saved my marriage. Like, yo, this has improved our relationship. Like, I could finally like breathe again. I finally believe in my business. These are the things people are saying. Like, we've doubled profit, tripled revenue. Like, people are working from 15 hours to 2 hours now while the business doubles. People are, finally turning their business around for the first time in the history of the business, finding a profit. Like, these are real interesting problems to solve versus like, trying to get to our first 5 or 10K. There's a million people who are equipped to do that. Very few people who have my skill sets and my wife's skill sets to help turn around a 7-figure business or turn around a 6-figure business. And so that's a better use of our time, and it's more exciting.
I love that. And I can hear somebody who's listening in who might be in a similar position, even in a potentially different niche, asking themselves like, okay, cool. If I'm going through that right now, like, what are some ways that I might be looking at the problem wrong? Because, you can't write a right prescription from the wrong diagnosis, And so it's like starting with the diagnosis, like, what do you see in your experience that most people just aren't understanding about how to make that turnaround happen?
I think I was fortunate that I wasn't rushed for money. This is one of the times where I was starting a business where I didn't really have a desire to hit the ground running. It sounds bad. I always want to have success, but I was just in a better place having, just had that liquidity event. And so I really had time to just sit in it and do the research, talk to people. And more so, when we started working back after you, we had a high-end exit program. And then the entry-level program, we've gotten rid of that and we're starting to work with people who are now at minimum 6 figures on to 7. And I was just more excited about that work, right? And instead of, it was like a better use of my time, because I would spend the same hour conversation with trying to help someone get to like a find product market fit, versus having an hour with someone fixing their gross margin problem or fixing their supply chain. And this would get fixed, and it would be like, a $2,000 worth of joy added into the world, or benefit value. This would get fixed, and it would be like a $200K increase in value into the world. So I'm like, all right, this is more rewarding. And not only is it more rewarding, but this person doesn't have multiple places to go for help. And this, I can find 5 or 6 people to send. So what I decided to do is just give this entry-level content away for free on my YouTube and my newsletter and my social, because I still find that there's, good in the world by just giving. But where I focus my brain power is over here with building and exiting a business, because there are not a lot of people with the experience to kind of successfully help people navigate those waters.
By the way, for anybody that's listening in, kind of, free content he's giving away. I'm literally looking at a subject line right now that says, the formula that made me 500K. Let's talk about that.
So that is the next thing. The free content is really like paid content that I'm literally giving away. Multiple people have reached out and said, "Hey man, I took your boot camp, and I launched my brand from the boot camp, and I'm now at 30K a month. That's 360 grand for the year, right?" Another person said, "Hey, I looked at some of your stuff on Instagram around shipping price, and I've made an extra couple $100,000 from that." So this is like real info. This isn't like play little entry level stuff. I'm just giving away what people would have paid for me for free. And so this copyright deal is a pre-sale page that I used when I was running paid traffic that at a minimum made me $500,000. That was where I was spending at least $1,000 to $1,500 a day every single day for like a year and a half at minimum. And that thing did numbers.
What if you could give someone a super high level of just even what is contained in that? Like, what do they need to know?
Yeah, so I'll give specifics around. We sold grooming products to men of color with beards. And so that just takes around a hero's journey story of someone named Tyrone, who is a fictitious character based on the majority of our reviews, who had a problem, had ugly beard syndrome, which is a name we coined because our biggest problem was we needed men to use the product long enough to see the result, but they weren't used to using beard care products, so they would stop, but they were used to growing their hair out. And so they call that ugly face syndrome. So we just kind of connected the dot. It's kind of loop, like Russell Brunson says. And then we told the hero's journey story about how they've been trying products, nothing worked, patchy beard, wasn't accepted, the girls turned them down, found this product, thousands of reviews, tried it, it worked, has a great guarantee, and boom, here's a one-time offer with a ton of social proof. So we really just agitated the problem and got in their minds so they knew like, hey, this whoever this company is understands where I'm at in life, and I'm going through these very same issues, and we just dug into it and just kept agitating them with how it impacted their confidence, and then created a solution. So it's a pretty simple copywriting framework, but once again, it's not A to B, it's like A to Z. And so that newsletter, I just kind of broke down the 5 steps that I used to write the newsletter or to write the pre-sale.
talking a little bit more about acquisition, and there's a little bit of a jump. How did people originally get into the exit blueprint, and what strategies are you using now that you're finding that's working really well for continuing to grow your courses and programs?
So it's weird. I'm historically a paid guy, but I haven't done much of any paid. Largely because I was trying to find the space. I didn't want to scale something I didn't enjoy, but I think I'm at the space where I'm comfortable scaling this current offer in the segment we served, but largely just been content marketing. Just the idea of, I've been like a behind the scenes kind of hidden thought leader. Those who are in the space kind of knew who I was, but not widely public. And so just been sharing my best stuff out there. And it's just like in that pre-sale, people have been finding me and saying, man, I feel like you're speaking directly to me every single time I watch your videos. And so it's just been giving value and shifting to a strategy session, like a call funnel, now drafted a VSL. And the acquisition strategy now is going to be having kind of content buckets of videos running at top of funnel, just to create, with no hard sell, just to create awareness.
I see.
And then retargeting those viewers or those engagers with more direct call to action, more tangible next steps. So it's just about giving people an opportunity to join my world versus like marketing everyone to come work with me, and then letting people who resonate with the things I'm talking about have an opportunity to see what it's like to work together.
That's cool. And if you had to give us a range of just, how many people you've been able to help so far through, including your workshops, because I know that I think you've done also half-day workshops as well, before people join with a longer commitment. If you had to say a range of how many people so far?
My wife was asking me this the other day, before or after working with you? Because I've been doing it for a couple of years now.
After working with them.
Okay, so that's a little tough because Amazon's 3,000 people, that kind of thing. But I would say clients specifically, like one-on-one capacity in these programs, or over 50 now. And then kind of general training workshops, that thing, probably about 5,000 people since in the last year and a half.
That's awesome. Because that is, again, serious, real impact. I've seen the testimonials that come even from just your workshops. And people are actually, I think I remember one of them. I think somebody was saying they made their money back before the workshop ended.
That's the stuff we like to do.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I'm just really excited for, again, the impact that you're having on people's lives. What is one of the biggest thinking errors that the 6- and 7-figure founders have before working with you that is secretly handicapping them?
This is so good. There's so many. I would think the main theme that we push is do more with less. It's like a theme in our programs. Everybody, I can't think of one person who we've helped that we have not really pushed for them to just cut stuff. Less acquisition channels, focused on less products, just completely do less. And so the thing is, they typically think to get to 7 or 8, they're looking at people ahead of them, and they're looking what they've been doing in their year 5 or 10 with more team than them. They're not realizing how they're wasting their time on non-important activities because they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And so they don't understand the leverage points of, you would get way more accomplished if you spent 80% of your time on this one thing and getting rid of these other 3 things versus spreading yourself equally around 4 or 5 things. And so the idea of scale is actually doing more or less things more efficiently, better and better, versus doing additional things. And so I think that's the biggest error, where the entrepreneurs I work with who are already at 7, they're hella focused. They have time in their day every single day to work on that one most important thing, and they're focusing on going deep versus wide.
That is solid. Let's say you point it out to them, right? Do you see resistance to changing it? Are they open to, okay?
No. So, I won't say her name, but we worked with this founder, and I have everyone run an analysis of what are your top sellers by revenue, what percentage of revenue they account for. And oftentimes they guess it wrong, right? They think it's this and it's never that. And it's like, you only need a couple of hit records, 4 to 5 to build $1 million e-commerce business. And a hit record is like Sean Paul, Give Me the Light, right? It's like the remix. You get Drake on it, you get Beanie Man on it. You don't try to fill out your album. And so once we identify what those are and we tell them to don't put any more money in the resources in these additional things, one person did not. So she spent about $90,000 to buy this new opportunity product. And long story short, it flopped. Like no one's buying this thing. And not only does that mess her up, but now her cash is tied up so she can't buy the thing that people really want, right? It's like you're not able to put the hit record on the radio or play it at the party because you're working on like track number 17 on the CD. And so she was selling out of the main thing, and that brought her revenue down because everybody wanted this, nobody wanted this. And so it wasn't until she was like sitting in it, she was like, you know what, you told me this and I did not understand at the time, but you were so right. And so there's a ton of resistance to it, but that's normal because it's kind of like what you were just saying, you don't know what you don't know. And so if you've always been running your business a certain way, you never learn about it until I say there's like a near-death experience where now where she's in, where this money is tied up and she can't produce the thing that people want. And she's like handcuffing herself to growth. And now she learns her lesson, but there's always resistance.
Just to make sure that I'm not missing any context for somebody that's listening, and when you use the analogy of, okay, you got to have a hit record like Sean Paul, Give Me the Light and stuff, and having remixes of that, is that having variations of a hit product within the product line and then like doubling down on that as opposed to coming up with new products that aren't tested yet or, that you might be emotionally attached to for like whatever reason and stuff like that?
Correct. So maybe you bundle it with something. Maybe you come out with an accessory to support that. Like,
I see.
Your mental energy, your creative mental energy is to like come up with more creative ways to package this and sell more of this versus let me go try to come up with a new thing that people may or may not like. It's a much better use of your time. And not only that with cash flow, but even with our businesses, like marketing, right? If you have a $10K a month budget split across 10 different products, you are only going to get, let's say the numbers, $1,000 worth of ad spend to distribute each of your product versus if you have $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 on one product, of a product you are certain that if people see it, they're gonna gravitate to it. You just have a much better time of going deeper with something that you know is a winner versus trying to diversify across a bunch of proven and unproven things. And so mentally, marketing wise, cash flow wise, it's just much better to focus on 4 to 5 hit records than try to continually find things that people may or may not like.
There's so many parallels between this and my world of digital information products and advisory products, because I was just telling a client of mine the other day where, I was just like, hey, you have your VIP day that you do for your clients, like in person, you just need one curriculum and different formats as opposed to trying to come up with all these different curricula, and it was a light bulb moment for her. I was like, yeah, I'm just like, listen, whether or not you are delegating it to the team for them to be able to execute it, because she's at that point now, to be able to step away from it because she has like multiple, mid 5-figure contracts from all of these organizations that want to work with her. People want to become co-founders with her. Like she provides a lot of value, but then she's recreating the wheel from scratch every single time. Like she's starting one of these projects. And I was like, hey, let's streamline the thing. And then you have the curriculum and then you can have That curriculum fuels the group program, it fuels the one-on-one client work, it fuels, the small group consulting, all these different mastermind, whatever the case may be. And then there's no more having to think through all these billion different moving parts. It's interesting for me personally to see like the parallels there. And there's even within my own business model, like we have a greater product flywheel framework, that covers like all these different areas of the business, and it's like revenue, offers, audience, and then sales. And many people know me as like, sales guy, copywriter, that sort of thing. But I went deep on product, and I've been seeing just the need for curriculum, because everybody's teaching, hey, here's how you sell the online course, but not a lot of people actually talk about, okay, well, how do you actually create it? And it's like,
create a good one.
Yeah, that part. It's like, charge them a lot of money and then don't deliver. No. So then one of the variations we saw that worked really, really well is actually a one-day workshop for like very, very busy, like high-level consultants, who they're doing VIP days for everybody else, but they've never been able to like have somebody do a VIP day for like their thing, which is then getting the curriculum done, and they have a bias towards action. And so it just like makes sense, honing in on what it is that your audience needs, what they're willing to pay for, and what's going to be a true value add for them.
100%.
Question. Let's say a lot of the people that you're working with, they get their time back. What happens next? Do they go on to the new thing? Do they keep the time? Do they start a new business? Like, where are they looking forward to after they hit the big target or goal?
So great question. That's something we're currently figuring out, because we help people kind of too fast. It's like the video you got, they're like, yo, my problem is fixed. I was working 15-hour days and I overwhelmed. Within the first 30 days, I'm working 2 hours now and I made my money back. Business is doubled. I'm like, okay, what next? So naturally, with that one person, she's like already thinking about launching a new business. She has too much time on her hands. So what we've been thinking internally is like, it's so funny. People have like so much time now, and they're like, yeah, I don't know what to do with myself. They're like coming up with ideas. But what we're doing is we're actually coming up with a milestone map. So like we believe the end goal is to sell a business, or at least have a business that's sellable, right? And so within it, it's like cash flow. It's like acquisition on autopilot. It's like building community. So you build like the LTV of your product versus just transactional. There's like having team that is capable of running the business without you, that like systems and having meetings, and then like having it be transformative, like having your documents clean so an investor could look at it and invest or buy. And so there's like a pipeline of things, and we're starting to realize now that we can support founders in these other areas. And so we're currently kind of I think I was talking to you before the call just about the thought of like restructuring our program to, instead of thinking like, how can I make this offer so great that people would feel dumb saying no to it, which is like our conversions are crazy because we get it. Now is like, how can we create this program so that people would feel stupid like not being a part of it? How can we keep serving them? And so because we're like getting results too fast, we're like, okay, what are their new needs? It's like we're solving a problem. Before when I used to teach people about ads, they'd have ads so much and they'll work so much, then they could have problems with fulfillment, right? They couldn't keep up, and then they were doing too much work that they needed a team. So we're creating like a whole pipeline of support based on like milestones.
That's awesome. I love that. I am curious for you, what has been personally helpful for keeping you grounded through all of these different iterations of your business models and stuff like that? Because it seems like, you called it out implicitly earlier. It's like, sometimes people who are in the early stages, it's a lot of mindset, but it seems like you have spent time working through that. What have you found to be personally helpful for yourself?
Personally helpful for mindset in this business or
both in general and now in this business. If you could, I'll ask a different question. If you could go back in time to the Gamal who you shared 200K, 300K in debt, managing like the cash flow, like the can't sleep at night, what advice would you give yourself now, knowing everything that you know?
First of all, I always slept like a baby. That never kept me up. Never worried about that. I slept like a baby. Sleep is important. Staying up at night is never gonna solve it. Usually. So great question. One of the things, I don't know if it's coming from the fact that I'm immigrant Jamaican parents or if it's the culture, I don't know, but failure has such a negative connotation. And it wasn't until I spent some time at this tech startup for about a year and change, and the tech startup failed. It wasn't a success, and it wasn't able to raise money fast enough. And I shut it down, ended up starting Fresh Heritage, which was great. But I learned so much from that. The best part is that I interacted with people who generated $1 billion in company value, who I was around billionaires, families are worth billions. And the thing that I learned, that they really embrace what the concept of failure is. And so I think as I've been thinking about, I slept good at night because it wasn't like that stress of like, oh man, I'm failing. This is just a problem that I have to solve. Staying up isn't really worth me solving the problem like consistently, right? Maybe 1 or 2 nights, but not for a week or two, certainly not a month. And as I'm pivoted in this business, I say it so freely, like, yo, we're going in a new direction because I don't feel like I've failed the prior direction. I feel like I have a hypothesis. I test it based on the feedback. This is a much better use of this opportunity. And understanding that really like shifted for me because I kind of rid myself of the pride of like having to be concerned about what people think about what I'm doing or what will my first customers say now that I'm experimenting in this other direction. And I think just giving myself the ability to make mistakes and learn from them and move on quickly has just been so freeing. And so that's what I would tell myself, a few years ago. It's like, it's okay. You're definitely not going to get it right. But when you get it wrong, you're going to be learning and starting from experience, not from scratch. And so there's always a lesson in the wrong hypotheses or the failures that you can use to get a little bit ahead and find the next thing. Because in the tech space, I realized YouTube started off as a dating app. Facebook started off as essentially the same thing, like rating people's pictures. Pretty much everything started off in another direction. And the thing that made it the unicorn was not the original idea. It came through iterations and giving yourself permission to observe the data and read the data and listen to the data to come up with this thing. And so I just tell myself I'm doing the same thing. I'm hypothesizing and getting customer feedback and giving the customers what they need.
That is such an amazing note for us to start closing up on, because that is applicable to not just business, but life. It's applicable to relationships, it's applicable to health. It's like, it's the journey over time, and finding out what works over time and also not throwing in the towel. Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. If someone were listening in and they're like, where can we find out more about you? Where should they go?
Gamal Codner on Instagram or Codner.co. Codner.co is our website. You can learn all about what it's like to work with us and all that stuff on either one of those sites. So those are the 2 best places to get some information on working together.
Awesome. And the final question I have for you is, if you could share anything with somebody that's listening in, what would you want to tell them?
That's already in business? I would imagine someone's already a consultant. A lot of what I've been telling myself is what I teach people in e-commerce. Like, a lot of the tension I see for people in my space are like they're really just focused on growing. And it's kind of like, what are you in service of? Like, why do you want to grow? And really get into the depth of that. Because I'm in a space now where I don't really care about revenue as much as I care about profit and cash flow and freedom and flexibility. And so I'm optimizing all of my decisions based on that North Star. And so having a North Star, which we did for the ecom brand, which was to eventually build and sell, and making sure like your 3-year vision of your business now, you are not making decisions because of a quick cash grab that will take you away from the end goal that you have. Because in reality, things take a lot longer to do. And so if you're not constantly having the perspective of like your 3 to 5 year plan, and you're just looking at it from a week to week, month to month basis, you're going to start doing things in a year from now. You're going to end up in a place that you don't like. And so it's going to be hard to reverse yourself from that. So just always have a North Star, give yourself the perspective of freedom and enough money to live your wildest dreams without being in fear. And that's where I am. And so that's the support and the advice I give other people. Just give yourself that permission, the permission to be able to live like that and go after what you want down the road.
Permission and go after what it is that you want down the road. Love it. It has been a pleasure, always is, and I am looking forward to more. Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother, for having me here. Appreciate you, listeners, for tuning in for the past few minutes. Hopefully the conversation was filled with some things that you can take away and reflect on.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for checking out the show. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button and also subscribe so you don't miss another one. It also tells us which ones that you like the most so that we can then do more interviews like that. If you want to go from idea to implementation though, especially if you're wanting to productize your expertise so that you can scale your impact on your clients and of course grow your business, then join our email list. There we're going to talk about how modern consultants can productize their expertise so that they can have a greater impact on the world around them and live life on their terms. If that's up your alley, I hope to see you on the other side. Talk soon.